Welcome to the third or fourth, I can't actually remember which one it is, but third or fourth RPSC Club Leaders Zoom meeting. The plan behind having decided to do this was to give club leaders a chance to get together and hear from other people who have had experiences with their club, also to be able to kind of liaise with each other and discuss what it's like, the challenges that are involved in running a club. And the last couple that we've had have been very well received, and I hope it's useful. You know that the new board is very passionate about supporting clubs, and so we're really grateful. I think this is the biggest group we've ever had, and certainly, without a doubt, the most handsome, without a doubt. And Starla, I know you're here too, so I don't want to leave you out of that, just so you won't feel excluded. But in any event, we have a great presenter tonight who is, hi Starla. We have a great presenter tonight who is Mattia Guida, who is from also from Toronto, but he's not only involved in some of the other clubs in Toronto, but he is responsible with his team for the absolute miracle rebirth of the North York Philatelic Society. So that's what he's going to share with us about tonight. He has sent me what he called a slightly long biography, but I actually think it's pretty fascinating. So I'm going to read the entire thing, and then we'll turn it over to Mattia, who has a presentation for us. Mattia was born in Italy in 1949 and graduated in economics and commerce at the University of Naples. He worked for a multinational company of the Fiat Group, manufacturing agricultural machinery, now called CNH or Case New Holland, that's the company, for 34 years until he retired in 2008 as VP of European Sales. He started collecting when he was 7 years old. His parents had a small collection of Italian and Egyptian stamps, and they gave it to him. His grandfather was an engineer on cargo ships, so he was receiving many stamps from very exotic places. As a teenager, he started having pen pals from up to 10 different countries, and so he ended up collecting stamps from all over the world. After university, he was an officer of the Italian Coast Guard for 2 years, and then in 1975, he started working for CNH. As he was involved with sales, he traveled most of the time, and it was difficult to keep up his stamp collection. In 1985, he was transferred abroad for the first time to the USA, and after that, he moved to Australia to manage the local subsidiary, then Singapore, then Italy, the United Kingdom, and finally Turkey, just a few months before deciding to retire. As he was moving from one country to another, his stamp collecting interests also changed quite a few times, and he ended up with a large disorganized accumulation of stamps from every corner of the world. After his retirement and his family's decision to come back to Canada, he decided to reorganize his stamp collection and to focus only on Italy and Italian areas, with a specific interest in Italian states, Italian and worldwide squared circle postmarks, and European postal history. His work on worldwide squared circles has been published in 2012 in an Italian magazine, Il Postalista, and he ran a website called the Squared Circle Postmarks Worldwide.ca in English and Italian, now being reorganized. The intention of the website was to become a reference point for collectors of these postmarks by supplying some basic information on the squared circles of each country that use them and adding an extensive bibliography. He worked very closely with Daniele Prudenzano, the editor of the Italian Catalog of Squared Circle Postmarks, and he also was working with him on preparing a catalog of private Italian squared circle postmarks. In addition to the Philatelic Specialist Society of Canada, he's a member of the RPSC, the North Toronto Stamp Club, of which he was the president for 3 years, the North York Philatelic Society, of which he has been the president since November 2022, the West Toronto Stamp Club, plus the Italian and Colonies Study Circle in the UK.
I should add also Markham Stamp Club, because otherwise Klaus would be disappointed.
Okay, thank you for the full disclosure. That'll save some gunplay later on. In the last few years, he's also supported a large number of stamp collectors and dealers and an auction house in separating forgeries from genuine stamps from all Italian states. He has made presentations at various clubs on Roman states, the Cavallini pre-stamps of Sardinia, the Italian Postal Service in Egypt and Palestine, and the squared circle postmarks of Italy and India. In the last 10 years, he has written many articles on different subjects in Phila Journal. And I'd like to say, just from a personal standpoint, that Mattia is one of the most accessible, kind philatelists that I know. I have never asked him for his thoughts on anything or asked him for help, that he hasn't been really forthcoming and very generous. So I know we're all going to learn a lot from him. So Mattia, we'll turn it over to you, okay? And thanks for coming tonight.
Okay, can I share the screen? Yeah, I can.
I think you should be able to.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, so thank you for the introduction. I didn't expect that you would go through all my my history, but anyway, basically, what I wanted to do tonight was just share with you some things that I've gone through in the last 12 months, and get also some feedback, because as you will see from what I put down in this presentation, I've not invented anything. And basically, I've been trying only to improve on certain things which were done before. And I'm still looking for the right way to go. And I have doubts about the possibility of NYPS to be viable in the long term. I am positive. I am encouraged by what's happened until now, but at the same time, I think it's still too early to say if NYPS is completely relaunched or not. So let me go through what I put together. I've tried to give you a bit of history of what happened before and where we are now, and the future as I see it. So first of all, the North York Philatelic Society is not a new club. It was founded in 1953, so that's 70 years old. It's not one of the oldest ones in Canada, but still 70 years old is it's a pretty respectable age for a club, and it's chapter number 21. In the past, there have been periods as been one of the most active clubs in the Toronto area, with one of the largest memberships in the area. But when I arrived in Canada, the club had already started experiencing the beginning of a decline. It started around the year 2000. Gradually, its membership reduced, and it shrank to only 20 to 25 members in the years before COVID. By 2019, the club attendance was extremely low. There were only 2 or 3 people coming to meetings. There was no more a meeting room available for the following year, because the community center that was hosting the club had decided to renovate completely, and that room would be basically destroyed and rebuilt for different purposes. And at that time already, everybody was questioning if the club was able to survive another year. And we are talking about 2018. Then 2019 came, COVID started, and then that was the end of it. The management, I don't want to be too critical of the management, but you will read from there that we've had some conflict there. Definitely, they were not ready to prepare an emergency plan. They were so discouraged by the COVID situation that they thought, okay, this is just the final drop, and that's it. There is no chance for the club to be relaunched. And so they didn't take any positive approach. There was no communication with the members. So the members between 2019 and 2022, they never received an email, they never received a phone call. They were never asked to renew their membership. Basically, the club was dead for those 3 years. When all the clubs reopened after COVID, it was even more evident that nothing was happening in North York. And people who were still somehow interested in the club started discussing about dissolving the club or merge it with another club. So now, first of all, we should look at what didn't work. And pre-COVID, the situation in Toronto was not that bad, because we had in Toronto itself 2 clubs which were doing quite well, North Toronto, West Toronto, and actually they were expanding. I've not mentioned Markham because I consider Markham outside of Toronto, but anyway, if you consider in a broader area around Toronto, Markham had been started and was doing quite well. And the only clubs which were in trouble were North York, and actually also Scarborough was not doing well. The main reasons can be identified in a few things. First of all, the lack of dynamic management and the lack of motivated volunteers. The idea, at least that I have seen being positive in this last 12 months has been that you have to lead by example. You cannot be a president of a club and just tell other people what they have to do. You have to do everything yourself, and then hope that other people see what you're doing and they get enthusiastic about doing the same thing, or to work together with you. And that has been a problem, unfortunately, of the management before. A concept which was tied to how the club was 20 years ago, when the president was just a symbolic figure, and then there were plenty of volunteers who were then doing everything for the club. This is not the case anymore. I think all of you know that finding enough and good volunteers is not easy at all, but definitely for North York, that went down very fast. There was no attempt to understand what were the members' expectations. What was happening was that basically people were doing exactly the same thing that had been done in the past. So just look at what was successful 20 years ago and just repeat it. That was a mistake for 2 reasons. One, because you need innovation. And the other time is because as there were less volunteers and less members, some of the programs that the club was known for had to be dropped. And so what the club was offering was becoming less and less interesting for new people. There was a newsletter, but then the newsletter, because of lack of volunteers, was discontinued. and no attempt was done to try to develop an additional channel of communications. There was no visibility for the members on the club programs. So the members would come to the club, show up and saying, okay, so what's going on tonight? And who is going to be there? And would be a surprise every time. And unfortunately, lately, the surprise in general was a negative one, because some of the people that they were looking to meet there would not be there. One of the positive things of the club in the past had been the fact that there would be dealers. And up to 2013, 14 probably, there were up to 6 dealers present every evening. Dealers, or anyways, sellers, so members who had enough material to put up a table to sell to the other members. Unfortunately, with the member number declining, then also the interest of these dealers started to disappear, and they started to drop to the club, in the club only now and then, not on a continuous basis. And then unfortunately also some of them were quite old, and then they retired, they moved out of town, and so they could not continue. So that's where we were in October 2022. So the message was very clear that the club was not going to open. Was not clear what they wanted to do. The club had some funds. They had about $4,000. So they had enough to try to do something if they wanted to, but there was no intention really of developing any type of plan. The president had gone to Florida and was expected to come back only around April, May 2023. So 6 months later. The vice president, the treasurer, did not know what to do. They had received no instruction what to do while the president was away. And there was still the need of finding a new meeting place. I started putting pressure on the president of taking some actions, even if he was in Florida. But that was met with no positive response, basically with response that, you know, what are you dreaming about? The club is dead. And when I continued insisting that the club could be revamped, in the end, the answer has been, well, if you have so many ideas, why don't you take the reins of the club yourself and you do it yourself? That was not my intention, because actually my loyalty for quite a few years has been to North Toronto, and later on more to Markham. And I was not thinking about getting involved in a third club, but I really thought it was such a waste and was such a bad thing to let such a good club go, that I decided, okay, I'll take the challenge. And also at the same time, I wanted to show that it was possible to relaunch a club. It's not until you have no members anymore, you can still relaunch the club if you really put some effort into it. So I started looking into it, and I did not contact the past members right away. And what I did, I tried first of all to search for a new location, and we were lucky enough with RV Shooter to find a good location, and what is important, also at a very low cost. The location is very central because it's very close to the subway, bus stops right there. It's very close to the junction of Finch and Young, so it's a good location. And the people there are very helpful too, which is very good, very flexible too. So I consulted the other clubs, and I spoke to North Toronto, to West Toronto, to Markham, and I tried to get their idea or their opinion about restarting the club. of course, because some people could have the idea that probably there are too many clubs in Toronto, which is not my opinion. I just wanted to make sure that there would be support from them. And I must say that they've been very positive, and everybody's offered assistance. So that has been very encouraging for me. Then, as Jerry knows, I've spoken with TAPA, and I have explained what I was going to do, and I obtained advertising space and support also from TAPA. And at that point, I thought, let's try to organize the first meeting. And we contacted the past members of 2018, 2019. Unfortunately, we don't need to go too deep into that, but unfortunately, a few, for some reason, were not there anymore, were not available. Some have moved to retirement homes. Fortunately, some have passed away. Some had problem driving in the evening, and we wanted to organize meetings in the evening, so we had difficulty there too. So at that point, the number of people that showed an interest to come to a meeting were about probably only 10. So luckily, I got in touch also with quite a few friends who were not members of North York before, and we organized the first meeting in November 2022. So our first meeting, we discussed what needed to do to relaunch the club. The few people who were members of the club before, they confirmed that they had lost interest in the club simply because the club had nothing to offer to them, but they wanted to have a club in North York. There is quite an active philatelic community in North York. There are quite a few people who collect stamps, not necessarily they are members of clubs, but there are some who are the typical loner stamp collectors who don't go around that much, but still that would probably be open to come and visit a club in the area. So we presented a plan to the group after talking to them, and we said, okay, then we will organize 2 meetings per month. We will commit to update the members on the club activity via email, and later on we'll work on Facebook newsletter and on the website where there was a big issue. We will make sure that members have a good visibility of what to expect at every meeting. So you will never come to the meeting without knowing what's going on. Give a commitment that each meeting would have a predefined theme. And this was something that came up from the comments of the people who were saying that they would like to come to the club, but would like to come to the club because they find that there is something that they're interested in. So we took a commitment there to have a predefined theme, which is not necessarily a positive from every point of view, because this meant that we were also limiting the number of people interested to come to a specific meeting. If you talk about topicals only one evening, this means that the people are not very interested in topicals. They may decide to stay home. So we were in a certain way limiting the number of people that would come to a club meeting, but those people would be more motivated and would be willing to come back again once we would do another evening about the topicals. So the question was, do we want just to try to cast the net for everybody, or try to have maybe less people, but people who come and who are happy to come again to do the same thing 1 month later, 2 months later. So that's the route that we followed. And we also took a commitment, because of the history of the club, to have a dealer presence, a members table, and the 10 cents books, which are the 10 cents books are one of the most attractive things that quite a few clubs have. and seemed to work quite well also in North York in the past. We understood that basically a lot of people wanted to trade. And so we focused for the relaunch of the club specifically on trading. So we committed to have one auction a month, commit to have an expert dedicated to reply all the members' questions, to attract the people who were a bit more junior, if you want, in stamp collecting, and commit to relaunch the stamp show that had been quite successful in the past, and try to increase it to 2 per year, which we are now doing, and make every evening at the club a happy experience. So the concept that we discussed with the members was that we will be happy only if we find out that at the end of the evening you want to come back again. Of course, we had to work on reopening the website, and we decided, under the example of some of the clubs from out of town who were running a very successful Zoom program with online auctions, we decided also to organize an online auction. The other commitment was to maintain a constant communication with the members in order to adjust the club programs to their expectations. So we presented that plan. The response was quite positive, and we had an election, and we started with the new group with me as president and Darby as vice president. So that was November 2022. My expectation was that if we work hard, we would be able to reach about 30 members, and I was happy with that type of approach. We managed in the end to bring back some other members, old members of the club. So including me, we took back 16 members from the old club. But we also enrolled 39 new members. So presently we have 55 members in total, which is almost the double what was my expectation for the first year. This includes 6 members who are not coming to the club, or coming to the club very rarely, because they are from out of town, and they've been encouraged to become members because of our online auctions. We have worked on finding new members as one of the major objectives of the club. So everybody in the club is, in a way or another, receiving incentives to find new members. We have now to restart with the new program for 2024, which we have not announced yet, but for 2023, that has worked pretty well. And most of the new members are friends or are connected with other members of the club. So we haven't really done too much in terms of promoting or advertising outside of the philatelic community. We have more managed to get new members through just if you want, the testimonials of the people who were already members of the club. The stamp show in the spring and the monthly action has also been very good to recruit new members. A lot of people are curious about auctions. They come to the auctions, and then they find out there's something else going on. Then they end up coming back, even in the evenings where we have no auctions. We have been able to develop some programs with other clubs, particularly for circuit books. We have started doing something which now is becoming a little bit more common, and quite a few clubs now are doing it. Starting organizing an evening of circuit books together with North Toronto and West Toronto. We have published a few articles on Phila Journal and Canadian Stamp News, which have helped to increase our visibility. So that's basically what we have done in this 12 months. But we have to be clear, we are very basic in what we offer to our members. We have not even tried to really reconstitute a philatelic society. It is a stamp club based on trading. People can come, buy, sell, exchange stamps, get information about stamps, and finding people who have the same collecting interest. So we are probably doing only 50% of what North Toronto or West Toronto are doing, for example, in terms of activity, in terms of initiatives, etc., etc. But we don't have a big group of volunteers yet. And at the same time, we find out that focusing only in this activity gives us the possibility of expanding our membership faster than in other ways. The participation to the club is not yet what we would like to do or to have. We have between 10 and 15 people to each meeting, which is not good enough. And then has given anyway an indication to us that we have to calculate a ratio of 4 people to 1 in terms of participation to the club. So if you have 60 members, you can expect 15 members coming to a normal club meeting. Maybe other clubs have a different experience, but that's what we have found out to work for us. So we have set a target of reaching 80 to 100 members to be able to ensure that the club has a future and will remain viable for a long time. We are not there yet, and may be difficult because now we may have exhausted all the capability of our members to find friends and other people who can become members of the club. But anyway, that's what we have to aim to, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. An important thing, we have reached our break-even objectives, which was a big concern for me at the beginning. We started spending quite a bit of money to promote the club at the beginning, particularly to incite people to come back to our club meetings. And we have reached the break-even, and so the financial side is not a concern, which is good news. So the future. Year 2024 will be critical for the club survival. And we have to accept the fact that we may come at the end of 2024, realize that we have lost steam and we cannot do more than what we've been doing. And then at that point, that probably the club cannot live in the long term. But anyway, that's something to assess at the end of 2024. For now, we have to try to find a way to make sure that instead the club is capable of living or be a good part of the philatelic community in the Toronto area. We will maintain the activities that we are doing today until we will reach about 80 members, which will mean about 20 people attending our meetings. We should be able also, once we reach that level of people coming to the club, to get more volunteers to work for new or to start new activities into the club. What we want to do anyway, we want to continue with innovative different programs and meetings. For example, one thing we are trying to do is inviting dealers, visiting dealers from out of town to come and have an evening at our club. So if you want a sort of mini show, focused only on one dealer. we are negotiating at this moment. It's not easy to do because dealers have a lot of commitments also during the week, but and for them it's a long travel to come just for a few hours in the evening. But we probably will have something in early next year about that. We will want to continue organizing circuit books with other clubs because definitely that's something that we find very good for our members. The members are very happy about that. We want to work also some other initiatives. We have tried, unfortunately, the first effort did not work, but what we are trying to do is also to have some special auctions. We negotiated with a gentleman who had inherited a fairly large collection to come and sell their collection at our club, and have one evening only for them. Unfortunately, for different reasons, that did not work. But as we are having people from time to time coming and asking us about their collection, we are thinking about doing this because this would be something different that probably would attract more people to our club. What I'm saying is that we are trying to look at doing things always in the area of trading, but which are different from what other clubs do. To just try to establish a character, if you want, or a feature of the club, which is a bit different than the others. We want to be an integral part of the Toronto philatelic scene, which means that if we try to do exactly what the other clubs do, in the end, we will not be attractive enough because the other clubs probably they're doing it better than us. And secondly, at the same time, we are not really giving to people the opportunity to go to all the clubs because quite a few members are also members of other clubs, but they have a limited number of evenings that they want to dedicate to stamp collecting. They don't want to go to a club every night. So we need to have the possibility to create something different for them so that they feel that even after an evening spent or 2 evenings spent in other clubs, they still want to come and see us another evening because there is something different that we are doing that nobody else does. It's not easy, but there are certain things. And while we're talking, I don't want to disclose that tonight because, of course, some of the things we like to be a bit of a novelty. But we are trying to look at doing things which somehow stand out, if you want. We will need to improve our website and particularly the Facebook page. And we have not found yet the right solution, but we will work on that. Basically, one of the things we want also to work on is members' loyalty. So try to make sure that, and as I said, one of the things is trying to find some innovative things to be done at the club so that members are happy to be part of the club and they feel a strong tie to the club. Nothing else. I mean, we are not inventing anything magic. Definitely, there is a lot of hard work behind it, and not everybody is willing to do that. And we have to understand that probably the old group that was managing the club, also because of age and other things, did not have the possibility probably to dedicate so many hours to the club because this relaunch has costed to me and some other people many hours. But at the same time, I think a positive message that I would like to give is that we are always worried about the fact that stamp collecting is declining, etc. The reality is that there are a lot of people out there, and I did not mention that, but a certain percentage of people at the club are people who were not members of other clubs, or have become members of our club and then have become members also of another club in town. So there is still the potential of expanding membership in a club if we work hard and we try to be always very responsive to what people are looking for at the club. I will stop here. I'm sorry if it took so long, but this is also something that, of course, I'm very enthusiastic about because it's been 12 hard months and a lot of work into it. And I'm happy at least to be able to share with you that the message is that before we close a club, we should be very careful in considering what are the other options available, and believe that relaunching a club is not impossible. Actually, it can be done with the right effort.
Great. Thanks. Thanks so much, Mattia. That was not at all long and was very well organized and presented, and I think inspirational in fact. So I'm sure people are going to have some questions. So do you want to stop sharing your screen and then we can get back to the community view and we'll go from there. But that was terrific. Thank you for doing that. There we go. Okay. So, I'm sure people have questions. Feel free to just jump in and ask, and off we go. Alan.
Hi. Thanks, Mattia. That was great presentation. I was wondering if you have an arrangement with the clubs in the Greater Toronto area for associate members. So rather than paying the full membership fee, they may pay, like in our case, $5 for the year. And it helps to be able to bring more members into the fold. They would receive our newsletter at the very least. Whether they come to a meeting is up to them, but at least it helps to be able to keep those lines of communication open. Do you have anything like that in the GTA?
Alan, we started with Markham at the beginning of 2023 with a program where the members of Markham get a special rate for North York. In reality, the response we've got from people has not been, let's say there has been no impact. The response of the people is that if you are having such a low membership fee as we were having, because we were having a $10 membership fee per year, and if then there are also some benefits in participating to the club, because we are giving always some special coupons and other things that are drawn at the club, etc. So quite a few people at the end of the day get something out of their meeting at the club. The fact that we pay $10 or $8 or whatever it is for membership, it's not an issue. It's the way that we feel that we are supporting or we are belonging to the club. So we did not continue on that avenue. Maybe it's a mistake, but that's what we decided to do. What we are doing is to encourage people to go to other activities in the other clubs. So we try to maintain very open the communication and the information about what's happening at the other clubs. With Markham, and I mentioned before that we have been focusing on evening meetings, because with Markham, for example, we have organized our meetings so that they are complementary to theirs. So they have a meeting on the second and fourth Wednesday of the month during the day from 10 to 12. We are having the first and third Wednesday of the month, but in the evenings. So that people, and we don't mind if there are people who tend more to go to day meetings, and so they will go more to Markham, or people prefer to go to an evening meetings and then they will come to our meeting. But we have tried to offer something different so that they're encouraged to go to both. With North Toronto and with West Toronto, we are having quite a few members who are going to North Toronto or West Toronto because there are things there that we don't have, and we're very open about it. And we are not trying to divert their attention from that, on the contrary. So what I'm saying is that without having a formal or a very strict procedure on that, and without having any arrangement in terms of fees, still things can be done so that people are happy to go to both meetings or to both clubs, and they still think that they belong to a certain community. For example, with the circuit clubs, circuit books evenings, we have cemented quite a bit, particularly at the beginning. We have had a very successful evening the first time, which has brought in the same room. And we are lucky that we have a very nice, large, spacious, full of light meeting room. And we have been able to bring in people from the three clubs who have been together, and they spent an evening together, and definitely it cemented the relationship between the three clubs.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
I was going to say that's a great presentation. You clearly seem to have answered everybody's questions in advance. But Al, go ahead.
I'm just also wondering for your group, Mattia, and other groups, if you have a constitution or bylaws or some type of terms of reference for your club.
Okay, this is a very good point. We are a bit behind on that. The constitution, as it was drawn before, it's totally obsolete. And we are rewriting it, trying to make it as simple and flexible as possible. And that sometimes is not easy, but avoid to get trapped into too many rules or too many conditions. The only thing that we would want to stay loyal to, if you want, is just to organize the club around stamp collecting only, without having what other clubs have of mixing stamp and coins. We think that unfortunately the two things are not compatible. There are people who are collecting both stamps and coins, but the reality is that coins attract in a different way, and particularly when you organize shows, etc., because the amount of money that can be spent for coins is different. The dealers who are dealing with coins end up being more powerful or stronger than the stamp dealers. So we are trying to focus only on philately, only on stamp collecting, and not mix stamp and coins. I'm saying this because we have another club, and I should have mentioned that we are cooperating with another club, which is the North York Coin Collector Club, and we meet in the same place. Only we meet in different evenings. We exchange information, but if you want to be a member of both clubs, fine, you're welcome. But coins are there, stamps are here.
Thank you.
Brian?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for the presentation. I did have one question about your online auctions, and it has to do with legislation here in Windsor. And that is, for your online auction, do you have to have a licensed auctioneer?
Actually, we have not investigated that. And our experience with Oxford and with Owen Sound is that as we are just doing it for the club members, we don't need to do that. But if you have some more experience or more information about that, that would be welcome. The whole concept of the and this is important, is that we do not promote online auctions to people who are not member of one of our clubs. So
Okay.
if you want to participate to the auction, you have to be a member of one of the 4 clubs at the
Okay,
moment.
that probably would get around the legal issue.
Yeah, so you have to be a member of, at the moment, we are working in cooperation with Oxford, with Owen Sound, and with Markham. Okay, and hopefully in the future we may also develop something with the other 2 clubs. But what we tell to the people who contact us is that you have to be a member of those 4 clubs, and then you are allowed both to sell and to buy at our auctions.
Okay, in Windsor, we have some overzealous bylaw enforcement officers.
Mhm.
Also, the question about your venue, and I forget, I didn't make a note of where it was. Is it a church or is it a community?
No, it's a community center, and that's interesting because we don't know what's going on in Toronto and in the Toronto area. Every community center seems to have its own rules or its own systems, and it's a question of going begging around and asking around until you find the right solution. Because some have very strict regulations in terms of people who can attend. Some ask very high fees to be able to have a room. Some other ones, they give it to you almost for free.
We've tried to get community buildings in Windsor, and we found our municipality will not allow a club to have anything bought or sold for money at a meeting. So we're disqualified from meeting there. And I was just curious if you ran into that sort of thing at a municipal building.
No, that in the community centers, they don't have this issue. At all the community centers, I know, because also Markham, for example, Klaus can give more information on that, is a community center. The old North York one was another community center, and they had no restriction from that point of view, provided that was something was done between members of the club. So whatever was done between the group of members of the club was fine. What they did not want to have, it's something which was, if you want, an open business, which is not our case. Even when we have auctions at the club, the people who come to the club are invited, or they have to be somehow introduced by one of the members. So it's not that anybody can just walk in and say, okay, here I am, I want to buy or sell. Okay. So the biggest restriction that they have in general is that people have to be, members have to be part of the local community. So, for example, in North York, but that was the case also in the previous community center, you have to show that a certain number of people are actually living in the area. But the important thing is that it's not all of them. So if you have what they think is sufficient numbers, so say around 20 people, it seems to be working for us. If you have around 20 people living in the area, then they don't care even if other members are living further away. but they are satisfied that they're giving a service to the local community.
Okay, thank you, Mattia.
But I should say that probably Klaus can make a comment on this. Every community center has got a different approach to this. So the risk there is that one day, if maybe there is a different manager or somebody else in charge of it, that the approach may change. That's a risk.
Okay, thank you. Jerry has a question. For those of you that don't know, Jerry is the president of JITAPA, and he works very hard to represent all of the clubs in Toronto and provide a kind of central clearinghouse for information. And I always enjoy getting their Philip Journal and reading that. So Jerry, thanks for that. Go ahead.
Thanks, Craig. I have several questions I want to ask Mattia, but before we do that, I just wanted to talk about the venues and the auction things. The Bramley clubs that I'm a member of, we rent the facilities from the Brampton or through the Brampton Parks and Rec Department. The Bramley Club, because of the age of most of its members, also belongs to the Brampton Seniors Group or Seniors Council. And as a result, we get a discount on renting the room. Plus, I think there's some provincial or local discounts for groups. Anyway, that's one thing. As far as auctioneers, as far as I know, I don't know of any club that have auctions that have a licensed auctioneer. We have auctions at all of our meetings. We have auctions at our annual show, and we just use one of our people. What we did find out last year when we were advertising our show, not last year, for this past February, we made this small mistake. We started advertising in some wrong places, and people started saying, "Hey, wait a minute, what are you doing here?" We weren't charging admission, which was fine, but we mentioned the fact that we had door prizes. Okay, so that implies selling tickets. And although the Parks and Rec people said that's okay, somebody from the city got hold of this and said, "Whoa, you need a lottery license for that." And we said, "Wait a minute, we raised maybe $120. We're not going to apply for a license." But that's another thing. Anyway, I want to thank Mattia for the excellent job he's done on resurrecting the North York Philharmonic Society. I know that prior to him doing that, he and I had some very informal chats as to what he was going to do, and as the president of GTAPA, I fully supported him. And I said, "Yeah, but however we can help, we will do that." So great job, Mattia. Okay, now I have a couple of questions I noted down, and some of them are very, very simple to answer. Number one, is your website active?
Now we have we had a big issue with website, and that's a lesson of the things not to do for the future that probably I should share with you. So the old North York Philatelic Society had one person that was keen to develop a website. This person did it. This person was the only one handling everything. Left the club, is still alive, but with different interests, and does not have the same emails, does not have anymore the old passwords, etc., etc. Basically, has not been able to go back on the website he had worked on.
Okay.
We contacted him, we tried to reach him, etc., etc. And we ended up with a situation where we have an old website floating in the web which we cannot access. What we've done with the Royal Philatelic Society support, we have created our pages within the framework of the Royal Philatelic Society. And for the time being, we are living with that. There are limitations because then we have a certain rigidity, if you want, in the type of messages that we can put through, because the pages have to be the same all the time. When we will be a bit stronger, we will develop a more articulated website. But for the time being, it is sufficient. And I must say that the experience of North Toronto with the Facebook page, which we are trying to imitate, but we are having some problems at the moment still to find. But what North Toronto has done with the Facebook page is very good, and it's more effective, probably from my point of view, than the web page in terms of attracting people. I don't know exactly how many people visit the web page, for example, in North Toronto, but I know that there are how many, Klaus? 400, 500 people visit the Facebook page of North Toronto. So in my direction, if you want, for the future, I'm thinking that probably Facebook is more interesting than the web page at the moment. Not eliminating one or the other, but putting a bit more of effort into the Facebook page.
Okay, thanks. I got two more questions. One of them is kind of got several parts to it. And so I'll ask this next one first, and then one other quick question, and then I'll just want to make a general comment after that. The one that's got several parts of it, or I've just noted down. It says, what's the age range of the members of the North York Philatelic Society? Do you have any young people? And are any of the new members people who were not members of any other clubs?
Okay, so
brand new into clubs.
Average, we are around 65. Between probably 65 and 68 or something like that. So we don't have young people, members of the club. I can't remember the youngest one, how old is he, but we are talking in the late 40s or something like that. We are not focusing on young people. We are focusing on retirees or people that they have been collecting in the past and they have a reason to go back to collecting again, or where members of the family have been collecting and now they have a collection in their hands and they don't know what to do with it, which is also something which has given us the possibility to acquire a couple of new members. I would say that probably of the total of 55 members, there are about 20, 15 to 20 probably. We're not members of other clubs. That does not mean that now they're not members of other clubs. So, for example, I have two cases in mind of people that have become members of our clubs, and we have encouraged them to become members of North Toronto or of Markham for different reasons. For example, there is a Russian gentleman who has become a member of our club that has got a very, very strong interest in some areas of stamp collecting. And we've been very clear with him from the beginning, this is not where you will find that type of expertise. And from that point of view, you should become a member of North Toronto too. And that's fine.
Okay.
Seems to work for us.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned that you're talking about maybe going up to 2 shows a year. Now, when you talk about shows, you're talking about a bourse then, rather than a show, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the reason I'm asking is, and I'm not being critical about this, Mattia. I know that, for example, the North Toronto Club has at least two shows a year, and there are also shows being held by not necessarily clubs in the Toronto area, but in the nearby area. And I'm just worried that there might end up being too many of these things. Okay.
Yeah. It is true, and it's a consideration that we have been discussing about, and we don't have the ambition to have a lot of, if you want, important dealers coming to our club, but definitely um, there is a need for people to see also to have a specific day where they get all together with other people, and they 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 talk with dealers, they talk with other people within the walls of the club, if you want. What I'm trying to say here is that we found out with the first show that we had that it's cementing loyalty to the club. So we're doing it more for that point of, from that point of view than to make money or uh, um, to do something that has to be necessarily has to have a high visibility.
Yeah.
It's
I think. I'm sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Some of the members remember very well what was happening in Scarborough, and they were used to go to a group of dealers, so meet a group of dealers once a month. I don't know if you are familiar with what was happening in Scarborough, but the community center in Scarborough, a dealer who passed away, he was organizing this with a certain frequency, and people are missing that. So that is an effort to try to accommodate also the interest of those people. Probably one or two, definitely not more than two, would be good for us.
And I think that you know, if the number of these shows or bourses increases, I think that should be, people should try to coordinate them so they're not one week after another, or as in this past weekend where there was uh, two club events. Mind you, they were at a fair distance apart, but there were different types. There was a actual show in Barrie which had dealers. There's also a like a book circuit book event in Woodstock on the same day. Now they're spread apart a fair bit, and the people who are looking for stuff out of the club circuit books are sometimes different from, or quite often different from, the people who are going to the dealers to buy postal history, this and the other. Anyway, that's something. What I'd like to mention too, and Greg knows this already, and some of the members of the GTAPA are aware of this. The GTAPA, which has been in existence for 20 years, a little over 20 years now, and I've been a member of it for 20 or 21 years, is taking a hard look about the future of the GTAPA to see if it still has any value in existing as an organization, or maybe it should be reworked and maybe even become a subgroup the Royal. Greg has seen the report that one of my members issued, and anybody who's read the latest minutes from the GTAPA also have seen that. I don't know whether you've seen that, Mattia, but there was the minutes were sent out. But that's my take on the GTAPA, and I don't want to steal Stuart's thunder, but I think you had a meeting to that effect for the GRVPA, and I don't know whether you want to comment on that. It doesn't really matter. Anyway,
Thanks, Jerry.
I've put you on the spot.
No, not at all. The Grand River Valley Philatelic Association met on Saturday, and they are going to resurrect.
Okay.
And a couple of things that we're looking at. One of the things that we need really is a newsletter for the group, and that's one of the things that the Grand News used to do that individual clubs can't do. The other thing we looked at was who's going to run our website, and we're leaning towards using Canadian Stamp News. In part because they're a business, they have more employees, they have employees that they're web savvy, and that would give us more continuity than us having some 75-year-old trying to run it. And it's very, we're not as computer savvy for the most part, but I would say the GRVPA will come back probably in 2024. And we'll have meetings about 3 or 4 times a year, probably in some central location. And Lee Hogg's willing to take the reins of it, and David Overholzer is going to stay on as treasurer for a while. So yes, but we're looking at things slightly differently, just like Mattia. We need to do some things differently, relying on Joe Trousey to do the Grand News on site and to do the website. Just that's not the kind of thing that's going to fly. So we need to look at alternatives, and one of the alternatives is Canadian Stamp News. So we're going to talk to Mike Walsh.
So you were able to get enough people interested in being on your committees, so like, because I know for a while you had no president, this, that, and the other.
Yeah, and what we found is, and just thinking, Alan can kind of verify this a little bit. There seems to be a real need to be able to communicate better among the clubs, geographically. And St. Catharines, where I am, is just, we're isolated. There's no two ways about it, because Hamilton's our nearest club, and every other club is much further away. So we're talking 65 kilometers to the closest club. For us to get to Bramalea, for example, your club, Jerry,
Yeah,
it's an hour and a half drive. Because there's that bloody little puddle of water in the way.
yeah.
And Owen Sound and Hanover and that want to do it. So yeah.
That's good.
Good.
Greg, I'm not sure you know who I am.
I do know who you are. Yes.
Okay.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, I had, well, when you originally set that Zoom meeting up, Stuart, I wanted to attend, not necessarily as a member of the Bramalea Club. The Bramalea Club happens to be a member of both GTAPA and GRVPA,
Mhm.
but I wanted to see what was happening with the GRVPA, because of what is maybe going to happen with GTAPA. But I wasn't, when you moved that meeting to an in-person meeting down in Woodstock, I thought, I don't think I'm going to go, and I ended up going to Barrie anyway.
But and you made a comment about different clubs holding shows on the same day. Understand that, and I don't know whether Greg knows this, the club fair is a radically different beast than a bourse. Okay, so we had 7 or 8 clubs there. We had about 87, I think, was the number of people that signed in. So we had a pretty good attendance, but it's a different beast. And Greg, we started the club fairs the Grand in 1994 or 5. and they've always been 90 to 100 people attending them. So there's a real need for certain kinds of things. And Matea's right. Different clubs need to have different things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
those
I'm
things,
going to build a little bit on what Mateo said, because let's just, I'm downstairs with the computer. You can probably see stamps behind me. Um, we polled our club members last spring, probably March, April timeframe, and said, what do you want? And communications wasn't one of our big issues, because we were using email to tell people what was coming and what was on. And but we had some requests. So in the first September meeting, Roy Hoopy came and did a presentation on perf gauges and watermarking. A lot of our club members did not know you could watermark a mint stamp and not damage it. Okay, yeah. In October, we talked about hinges and mounts, and talked about the proper way of using hinges, which is to put the hinge on the paper first and then put the stamp on the hinge. But the directions on the hinge packages says the opposite. Put the hinge on the stamp, and taking hinges off should be soaking them. You should never peel a hinge. November, we're going to talk about soaking and removing stamps. So we're going to talk about things like Bestine, which, by the way, it looks like above ground art supplies in Toronto still can supply, even though Trajan can't. December, we're going to talk about albums versus stock books, manila pages, that kind of stuff. January, stamp identifiers, February, catalogs.
Mhm.
So that's our first meeting of every month. We've been getting 16 to 18 out, and we only have a membership of about low 40s, between 40 and 46, somewhere in that ballpark. For auction nights, we're getting 25, 4 or 5 out. So Matea, you can do a whole lot better than 1 in 4. You can probably come to close to half. And that's good news for you, because if you get the interest, you can get the people out. I guess I've said enough, Greg, for the time being.
All right. Well,
Thank you,
Stuart, you
Stuart.
mentioned a thing about soaking stamps off and using Bestine and whatnot. If you look on the Getapa website, there's an article that was written many years ago by Peter Butler about that. So feel free to use that or any information from there.
One
thanks.
of the things that some people don't know about soaking, if you try and soak a self-stick stamp with water, you'll never get it off. You've killed using Bestine. If you use Bestine on a lick and stick stamp, it'll never come off, because it does exactly the reverse.
Yeah. And
You
there are
need
actually
to practice on
Yeah.
definitive stamps to figure out, even every country to country, which ones will come.
there are actually alternatives to Bestine that
Yeah,
are
there are.
in places like a Canadian Tire or Home Depot and that. But Bestine was the thing to go to at one time. Anyway, enough said for me. I'm going to mute myself.
I was going to say this is a good discussion, and I'd be glad to have either one of you come and record this for the RPSC YouTube channel, and it'd be great. But in the meantime, I'm conscious of the time, and I know you're all need to move on to other things as well. So, a couple of things before we stop the recording. Number one is to thank Mattia for such a I know that you feel like you're still in the process of solidifying the club's continuance, but I have to say, when so much of the news that you hear from people is negative, to see what's possible with a little commitment and a little bit of work and some new blood, which is part of it, it was very inspirational. So thank you for that. And I'd like to say, I always have ideas on what would be useful at these meetings, which we try to hold every couple of months. But if there's a subject that you would like to see us cover, or someone that you think that we could benefit from hearing from, please just send me an email and let me know, okay? And in the meantime, I'm going to stop the recording. Thanks everybody for coming, and we hope that this was useful to you, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.